Here we go.
What's the problem?
Just making sure you're ready.
Okay.
Hi.
I know you're not impatient with me.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Melanin.
And I'm Beleaf Mel.
And we're here with episode 127 of How Married Are You?
Okay, my name Beleaf. This is Yvette, and we've been married 12 years. In California, we got four kids. Relationships are scary, and it's very necessary that we share our level struggles, and we ask, how married are you?
Every Tuesday and Thursday, baby. Dang it, I tried to join in.
It's okay if you want to get your hands up. You got the questions, as we got the answers.
It's chocolate baby story time.
Chocolate baby story time. It's chocolate baby story time. 1, 2, 3, and...
Chocolate baby story time.
Go ahead, babe. What you got?
Y'all, I had an encounter with my daughter that freaked me out beyond what could freak me out.
Okay.
It was insane.
Explain.
That was literally the only word I have for it. The kids are getting ready to go out the house. The nanny's taking them. I was staying behind, but I was helping, every time they are leaving and I'm leaving after them, I just help get everybody out the door. Well, Anaya is straight up tripping. She is taking her precious time and moving slower than slow, And it got to the point where it was like, she just didn't move at all. And I did my voice that I do with her. I'm just like, if it was basically, I don't even know what I said. It's all a blur. But I was like, girl, you need to get your shoes on right now so y'all can leave. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what she was like so whatever about, but she was more concerned about something else. But because I spoke to her in that tone, she just stood there and looked at me. Mm.
She tested your gangster.
She just looked at me. And then I was like, excuse me, I need you to move. You guys are already running late. We need to go. At this point, everyone's starting to make their way, to the door and get out the house. I come over to her face. It's her face. And I'm like, start moving now. She doesn't move. I touch her this is not my proudest parenting moment, y'all. I swear. But at this point, we are forehead to forehead. Our foreheads are touching. And I literally push her with my forehead, to just try to motivate some movement out of her. And she
just a slight push. It wasn't a headbutt.
It wasn't it wasn't a headbutt. It was just one of those our heads are already touching. Let me help you just go this way. She did not move. There was nothing. And then I will admit to all you gentle parenters, because I'm one of them, I grabbed her underarm fat and I turned her around with the underarm fat, and she turned back around and stood and stared at me as I helped her little brother put his shoes on. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I'm like, Heffa, if you don't move your black around and get those shoes on, I am going to hurt you. And I didn't hurt her. I didn't lay hands on her.
And you walked away.
I walked away.
Uzi was like, why are you looking at me like that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm turning around and help Uzi. And Uzi goes,
why are you looking at me like that?
Because Anaya was giving him the evil eyes. It was as though she wanted me to help her put her shoes on. I have no clue what was going on. But in that moment, that incident, I got this look into the future of what it might be like to raise a teenage version of this girl that I know to be my precious Anaya Zai. And I was like, I do not deserve this.
Yeah.
I was a good girl. I'm going to have a good easygoing. We're not going to have any of this headbutting behavior. We are going to be harmonious. She's going to be a good listener, all these things. And I was just like, oh no, she's not. We have created a monster.
Yeah.
And I got scared. I am literally just nervous.
You didn't get scared for her. You just got scared of what has to happen.
What is, like what is to come. Because we're supposed to be best friends.
No, you're not. You're not supposed to be best friends with your kid.
Well, she's
maybe in adulthood, but not like during that time when
she's supposed to respect me and like listen when I tell her to do something. Oh my gosh, it was so unattractive. I was like,
yeah.
So I gotta figure out how to approach her differently because ain't nobody got time for that.
Do you think that we are both going to experience that? I think because even this morning when we were like going somewhere, and she's like, I was like looking for some medicine. I was like, oh yeah, she needs to take some Zyrtec. She hasn't taken Zyrtec, and I looked at the thing, and she was like, I am not taking that. I said, you're going to take whatever I give you. I'm not even talking to you. I can't wait because she don't want to get my head butt. You understand?
Yeah. It was a mess.
Yeah, that was rough. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. My chocolate baby story time is Uzi was up all night. I have a video on my phone of Uzi. It's 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, what is that? You just hear like boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking and I'm like, I look at the camera and I'm like, oh my gosh. He's up playing with a nice doll set. And I'm like, Uzi, come in my bed. And he walks up to the screen. And he's like, you want me to come in your bed, bad dad? And I'm like, what? He's like, do you want me to come in your bed? And I was like, yeah. He was like, okay. And he was up doing somersaults, like trying to do handstands.
And I'm blown away because this is the same night, because you must have got him back to his bed. And this is the same night that he walks up. Y'all, he scared me. He scared me. I don't even know why I opened my eyes, but I was asleep and I opened my eyes and there's this child. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then he goes, will you read me this book? He had a full-on book. And my question is, how long was he standing there before I opened my eyes? These children are creepers, I swear.
So did you read it to him?
No, I didn't read it. I said, boy, put that book down and come in this bed. I took the put it down. He climbed into the bed.
Yeah.
And then he was only on my side. And eventually I just had to put him in between us because sometimes when I'm over here, I'm like trying to spoon with him, you know? Mm-hmm. And he was doing all the shenanigans. And I was like, okay, bro, you got to go.
Well, let me tell you, at 8 o'clock in the morning when I woke up, because I woke up late, he was like under me. Like, you know how like somebody's like in you, but like they're in your crevice?
Yeah.
So my back is facing him.
I probably have a picture of it. I take a picture of him every time he's sleeping.
My back is facing him. His hands are right where my back touches the bed. So he's like in my crevice. And I could not. I rolled over. I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to shake him because I was like, did I smother him? I shook him really hard. And I was like, what the heck is going on?
He likes it. He likes the pressure.
I didn't like that because I rolled over. I was like, what is this on me? And it was a child.
Does he ever ask you to just lay on him?
No. He asked you to lay on you?
He likes to like wait. It's like he needs a weighted blanket or something, probably.
You need a straight jacket. Keep him in the bed. We're tripping.
Speaking of children.
Yes.
And that is what we kind of wanted to talk about today.
A lot of people ask us the question, being married and transitioning into being parents, right?
Yeah. So this is based off this comment. It says, can y'all talk about adjusting to being parents? Like how to do that well and what to do practically? This was a big adjustment for me and my husband, and we just walked through it with Jesus. But having someone give some good advice on this is so necessary because no one talks about the transition to parenthood much. Is that true?
I don't know.
Is that true for you? Like, I don't know either.
Yeah, like, when some...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So someone finds out you're going to be a parent, right? They're like, hey, man, like, I just want to let you know, man, me and Jessica are pregnant. And that person says, congratulations. What do they say? It's going to change your life. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. it's hard, but it's so good. It's so rewarding, so fulfilling. Say goodbye to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like they just say a bunch of cliche things like that. But let's really walk people through the nitty gritty of like, all right, here's what you need to expect to change about your marriage while becoming parents, because it is a bunch of instinctual things that happen with parenting. And people are just really trying to prepare, but a lot of it is instinctual. You learn by experience. And I don't think people give a lot of good information on becoming parents. I think they just kind of give you like this fluffy, like love, live, laugh type stuff, right? They don't give you that good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that people, because I was trying to think like, do people really not talk about it? And I think that people talk about transitioning into motherhood, transitioning into fatherhood. But the conversation is more individualistic rather than transitioning into parenthood alongside each other and how that shifts dynamics in your marriage. And I think that's probably the part that people are most interested in.
Yeah. And so I think that when we became parents, I'm just trying to think about that house, that guest house we brought Theo home to. We were like book reading, like really prepared. Oh my gosh.
We did a really good job with the first one.
The child isn't going to rule me. I'm going to rule the child.
Which is interesting because I feel like a lot of people talk about how their first child got their worst parenting.
Yeah.
And I dare to say that Theo may have gotten the best of us.
No, he got the best of you. He didn't get the best of me.
Like the most well-read version of me. I will say though, now I feel like because of therapy, I'm more mindful of the little child, like the little girl and the little boy in each of them, even though they're still the little girl and the little boy, but like taking care of that person because I had to do so much to like break down the wall between me and mine. I don't know. So maybe he didn't get the best version, but
when we brought him home, we were prepared to take care of him and us. Like, this is how we're going to operate so that we are the best team that we can be as a family. Theo, was on like a sleep schedule and an eat schedule, and he had boundaries in the house. He couldn't crawl past a certain space in the kitchen. Do you remember that? We had it blocked off. Like, and there were some things like he did, like everyone's feeding their kids Cheerios and you were giving ours Fruit Loops. Like, what is going on? But
I don't know why I did that.
As far as
maybe he didn't get the best.
Becoming a father and a mother, we became less of spouses. Because what? What did motherhood do to you that changed the dynamic of what and who you are? For me.
For you? To you?
Yeah, as your husband.
I mean, I've always said that motherhood has been the biggest identity thief for me. Like, it's like I became a mom and that was who I was. More than being, I would say for a season, I was still able to identify as a teacher, because that was a huge part of who I was as well. But over the years, I feel like motherhood has kind of consumed my existence because the children are the most identifiable responsibility that I have. Like they're not necessarily the most identifiable, but the most needy.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it, but I would say that like before kids, I was like, babe, what do you want to eat for dinner? Like, I'll cook for you, Why are you looking like that? I cooked. No? Did I not cook? Is that not the truth?
I feel like I was the cook.
You did cook a lot.
You were teaching.
I did the sides. What?
I was cooking
I was in the kitchen too, bro.
Not like you were when you came home. Wait a minute. What's for dinner, babe? What do you want to eat? And I would cook for you.
No, but I was more mindful of preparing meals. What? That's not true. I think that's true.
Babe, that's
I don't
true
have
now.
any receipts. No, babe. I cooked before kids too.
Okay, what did you cook?
I don't know. Chicken.
What kind of chicken? How did you prepare it? No, babe, really.
No, really. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
You didn't fry it.
I made spaghetti. I did make spaghetti.
Which
You don't like spaghetti.
I hate spaghetti.
You don't like spaghetti.
She cooked a lot of like meals that you eat when you're in poverty and you don't know it.
Oh yeah, I would try to make like the pork beans and rice.
Pork beans and rice, spaghetti.
Baked potatoes was a thing that I made too.
Baked potatoes.
Yeah, I cooked.
Pot roast.
I tried the pot roast.
She never finished it. They were just degrees of doneness. But Yvette, you really started cooking like probably in the last 3-4 years, I'd say.
What?
2-3 years.
What?
Like for me, cooking for me.
Oh, okay. I see the difference. Anywho, I feel like I was a lot more concerned before the children about Glenn and his needs and his happiness and keeping the house clean and going on dates and doing whatever. And once the children came, he kind of just dropped down on my priority list. And, I don't think it would be false to say that we've always understood the fact that like our children will one day leave the home and it'll just be us at the end of the day. Like that's always been an understanding or at least a knowledge that we have.
Or they might not leave.
Maybe they won't leave.
But they'll be self-sufficient.
But they'll be, independent enough to take care of their own needs, wipe their own butts, cook their own food, all those things. And so anyway, we've always had that in the back of our mind or maybe in the forefront of our mind sometimes. I don't know. But it kind of got lost because, there's a crying baby in front of me. There's someone attached to my boob. Then you add in the element of cooking.
And you got work.
And you have to work.
Yeah.
It was just a lot. I mean, I was trying to say homeschooling. The element of homeschooling when I finally became a stay-at-home parent. But yeah, it's just easier because their needs are more urgent. So it takes a lot more intentionality to pay attention to your needs. It's like they're in the forefront, they're in my face, and you're kind of like, oh, she's got him, her, and the other.
And I also don't make a lot of requests of like what I need.
Yeah.
So it made it hard for you to even know. And so, yeah, I would say that my becoming a husband was like, okay, becoming a father was like, all right, you need to focus on making, like, because even still, like the transition between you becoming a mother, and I'm not saying it is dramatic, but it's like a whole production.
Say more.
That is the worst phrase I could have said because I was going to say theatrical, but it's not theatrical. What I'm saying is that it takes so much. Like you're preparing all the 9 months for this one day. The day comes and then you're just given a life and you go home and the baby does not care about you at all. So you got doctors, you got all these different people playing all these different roles, right? And you got the pediatrician and all that stuff and making sure the baby's good and not yellow and all that stuff, right? Jaundice. You know what I'm saying? Like you're learning so many different phrases. Oh, the baby poops black. That's interesting. Like no one could have told me that all these years of my life, right? So then
and I didn't even know before Theo, I didn't even really know about nursing.
Yeah.
Like that was a whole, like what? They get milk from my boob.
Yeah, which brings me to the whole point where it's like you don't really have much to offer the baby as a man, right? You have to like, it's like you gotta reintroduce yourself and be like, hey, I'm cool. I'm cool. You can get used to my touch. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like it just was not, it was not it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my only role is a support for you. Where it's like, what do you need? You want to do this? What you hungry? You want to, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You hungry? You want me to go out here? Like, I don't know how many trips to the store to get jelly beans or whatever you were into. Gummy bears. It was gummy bears and it was like red vines.
I didn't know.
Twizzlers?
Hell no.
Babe, you ate red
Whoever
vines.
eats Twizzlers is...
Babe, you ate red vines.
But was that what I was asking you to get me?
You were asking for red vines. You were asking for gummy worms.
What? I do not think that's true. Gummy bears, yes. But
Sour
gummy
Patch
worms,
Kids.
Sour Patch Kids,
Okay.
watermelon,
Watermelon.
Sour Patch Kids. That's a whole thing.
Whatever. All that stuff.
You say this stuff and somebody might try to send me something. And I
They don't need to be sending nothing. The dentist said. The dentist said.
Shut your mouth.
You don't get no candy.
Shut your mouth.
You feel me? Flex, get off me.
I did. I couldn't even get
off. So I'm saying that there was definitely like, all right, my position is a supportive role to my wife. Now, even like from last episode, even talking about my measure of success is like, I have to support you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I became someone who potentially focused on you and you alone, and the kids always have been secondary to me.
Yeah. Ooh. We didn't even talk about this, but that is so true. Like, I was who you were caring for. Like, even when you, and not to say that, like, you weren't trying to bond with the kids, but even when you would take the kid, it was like I would get done nursing the child and then you would take the child and burp them as kind of like a relief to like get the child off me. You know what I mean? Not that I miss those moments now, but it's like that's a thing.
Yeah.
And you were always concerned about if I was eating enough or drinking enough water or whatever the case may be. And I'm only concerned about the child. Is the child getting what they need? I'm not even caring about my own self.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing. Yes.
Yeah. And so
if you married a good partner, because some women don't have all of this.
So when you get to that point where I knew that, all right, you're about to become a mom. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I was going to come second.
Mm-hmm. You knew that?
I knew that.
Why?
Just because there's things that's kind of like, you got a baby. Like, it's a freaking baby. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is what happened. This is where we screwed up. So we had Theo, and it was like, all right, I get it, right? Mm-hmm. You got a baby. There's some things that I'm not enjoying about this process, but it's our first time doing it. Mm-hmm. We're going to debrief and talk about it later. At some point, we're going to have our own therapy session. I don't know why I thought I was going to get you to talk about something like this when you literally, you probably would have just hugged your way out of it or ran away and cried or something. You wouldn't have cried. You
ran
just
away.
Ran away. You would have been like, I don't want to talk about this. Early on, that's how we used to talk. Like, we didn't have really deep discussions. Anyway, so I knew that I wanted to debrief after Theo, but you got pregnant right away with Uriah. And it was like, we didn't even, like, she got pregnant so fast, we thought she had a tumor in her stomach. Like, yo, she's like, yeah, I'm working out, but like, your stomach's still growing. I was like, yeah, that's weird. It was like soon. I was like, man, she might have a tumor or something. And turns out you were pregnant.
I was pregnant.
So then I was like, okay, dang it. That's when I got
the muscle memory was real.
I got really stressed out because I was like, oh man, I'm not able to kind of debrief and explain some areas that I really think we would have done better in. You know what I'm saying? Especially like the intimacy. You know what I'm saying? Like we were already doing bad back then. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of like our life now was like what I was expecting to have like then. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and then like boundaries, there's a couple boundaries I was kind of like, you know, with members, like outside members of the family and stuff like that, just things that we probably didn't see eye to eye on, that I just was like, look, like, you know. And I think that us having a lull in between both children would have been easier, but it just wasn't possible. So it could have been where, you know, I think that the hard part is that when you transitioned into be a mother, you still had to work, so you became a mother, an employee, and a wife. And then even when I started my business, some of your friends and family members came before me then. So it was like mother, employee, friend or family member, and then wife. And that's when I was just kind of like, yeah, we ain't gonna make it. Those were the times I was kind of like
suffering in silence.
I was like, well, Jesus, what are you doing? Jesus? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is happening here? Like, what am I doing wrong here? I think if I can go back in time, I think I was trying to communicate, but not well. What do you think?
I definitely think you were trying to communicate. I just wasn't in a place where I could hear you, especially when I returned to work. You know what I'm saying? It was like, how dare you say anything to me?
You bum.
When I am over here.
With your broke ass.
I wasn't saying none of that. But it was like, dude, do you know what I'm experiencing right now? Like, I'm at work and they need me there. I come home and these children need me here. You want to have sex with me? Like.
And it was only me wanting it.
That would be accurate. Because it was like I spend so much of my time with people kind of just tugging at my body and wanting something from me. That
Even your
like,
lunch breaks weren't your own.
My lunch breaks were not my own.
The kids would come in your lunch breaks while you were supposed to be pumping.
Or the custodian.
Yeah.
At one time. Lord Jesus. But yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what do we have to say to the people? So I don't know. I guess maybe here we're just here to offer a realistic perspective of what it is. But like, if I could go back, what would you have done differently?
Nothing.
Wow.
I probably would have worked harder, faster. What do you mean? Well, I feel like I served you well.
Yeah, you did serve me well, and.
Just say but.
I hate but.
I like but.
Oh gosh, I knew you were gonna go there. What was I saying?
But I said I served you well.
Okay, yeah, you did serve me well, but I don't necessarily like you served me well. But like, how could we have because I feel like we've always been really good shoulder to shoulder when it comes to like.
That's working as a team. That's phrase for working as a team. I'm sorry.
I thought we talked about. I guess if you're a first time listener to How Married Are You, you better go back. No, I'm just kidding. But we've often referred to. We read this marriage book one time, and it goes back to back, shoulder to shoulder, and face to face. And shoulder to shoulder is like when you are in a season of marriage where it's like you just got to get stuff done. You got to execute. You got to just pack the diaper bag. You got the diaper bag. I got the bottle. You got whatever. And face to face is when you're like really intimate. And I feel like we could have done a better job of turning more face to face, because I think that's what we needed. I think we needed moments where we felt, or I know I can only speak to what I needed, but I needed to feel seen. You know what I mean? Like I needed to feel like I know you did a really good job supporting me, but I don't know if you fully understood what I was feeling and experiencing. And I was actually talking to our doula not that long ago. But we were talking about something, and she was like, I think you were experiencing postpartum depression after Raya Bow. And I don't recall that. Like, I didn't recollect that, but I'm sure she's probably right. You know what I mean? And so just even being aware, because I don't even know during those pregnancies, the first 2 pregnancies, if I even knew that postpartum depression was a thing. And you just nodded your head like, yeah. But it's like, how do you know that?
How do I know that?
I was experiencing postpartum depression.
Well, I know now. You know what I'm saying?
Hindsight is 2020.
Hindsight is 2020, but like, I think if you add in, like, I don't know how I could have saw you better, because my solution to your problems was that you would stop working. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would stop working and I would work, and that way you won't have to deal with the weight of having to make, all the income and because you were also feeling like, man, you get to spend all day with the kids and I don't.
Yeah.
It was like a little bit
Oh
of
my
jealousy.
gosh.
It was a lot.
A lot of it of jealousy.
Yeah. And
I
so
was
I was
super
like,
jealous.
this was your idea. I didn't ask for this. And I think that's where, like, a lot of times when we talk about, like, you leading early in the relationship, that's where, like, a lot of that, it comes out like that. Like, hey, I think you should be a stay-at-home dad. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, okay, cool. This is actually cool. I'm doing well at it. I'm doing okay, you know? And you're kind of like, I don't want you to be a stay-at-home dad. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. You know what I mean?
I had glamorized it in my head, but it's not all that's cracked up to be.
It ain't. It is.
I mean, like, it's great. It's an awesome opportunity. However, the way that I had glamorized it, it didn't come out to be like that at all.
Well, I think that, you know, because people say, like, oh, you know, some people talk about, like, how being a stay-at-home parent is one of the hardest jobs in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But other people are kind of like, well, what about, like, people who work on oil rigs and, like, have to, like, you know, like, these huge, like, deep sea fishing people, they act like different jobs is a degree of hard. But there's a pressure and a guilt that you have as a parent that is responsible primary parent, that the effect of you messing up, like, could ruin a lineage. Now, mind you, like, there's certain jobs like, yo, if you press the wrong button, you're going to blow something up and a lot of people are going to die, right? You spill an oil, you know, in the sea, fish die. Like, that's a huge
Yeah.
Like me, remember that time I was driving that forklift and I hit the sprinkler and the sprinklers went on in the whole warehouse. Story for another time. But
Glen has, I'm just telling Glen, everybody in the comment section, tell Glen he needs to start story time with Glen on TikTok or Instagram or something, because he has stories, y'all.
I tell you.
He has stories and they're hilarious.
So I'm just saying that. But there is something about being a stay-at-home parent that is just kind of like, oh, like, you don't want your children to hate you. You want to do the right thing. You don't want to mess them up for life. You're going to mess them up somehow. They're going to need therapy. You don't know that. You know what I'm saying? Or you got them overly inflated parents that think they didn't do anything wrong. And they, you know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, man, like, you know, or you leave your child with someone out of convenience and something happens to them. Like, it's so many things that can happen that you just kind of like think about. And so I understood that pressure was real. And there was a lot going on during that time, but I feel like my focus has always been you. Now, I don't know if that's healthy, but I definitely would say that my focus was 100% like you. And I would say I served you well, but what I didn't do well was serve me. Like, I didn't serve, like, myself, and, like, I didn't give myself permission to have fun. Like, when I would go on tour, you know, rapping, and, like, we had, like, one day off my entire time. You swore I was up there. I don't know what you thought I was doing. You thought I was out there living a life. And I promise you that it was as much of a misunderstanding as being a stay-at-home parent was, to where if we switched spots and you had to perform and travel, it was whack, babe. You know, it was driving an RV with 6 or 7 sweaty, stinky guys. You know, some liked to drink, some didn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was hard. It sucked, you know? And I wish I would have taken better care of me, and I think that would have benefited you. It would have benefited everybody.
And I think that is just the truth all around. Because I most definitely could have taken better care of myself. And it's one of those things where if you fill yourself up, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so I think that probably is the biggest, for me, I think that would be the biggest piece of advice that I would give anybody who is transitioning into parenthood, is to not lose sight of your own needs and not to be afraid to express those. Because I felt like, I don't know. I feel like you would see my needs as you perceive them, but I wouldn't express my needs as they actually were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because you did such a good job of, like, you know, being present or whatever, it was like, I can't ask for anything else.
Right.
Because then I become like a nagging, or it's like she's just not grateful or whatever. And so,
Go ahead. Well, you also were saying, like, you wish you would have saw me at some point too, though. Right? So I think that I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish your point.
My point was just to be like more vocal about like just communication. Communication is a huge asset to your connection when bringing children into a relationship. You know what I mean? When you become parents, communication becomes clutch, I feel like.
I also think that meeting like I think how could we have done a better job being face to face during that time? Because it's more than just like, oh, dates. Because I do think that like men need to understand that there is a period in time where your partner, spouse will have a child and you will be diddly squat. You will mean very little. Now, you will add value, you know what I'm saying, by labor in like support, not labor as in like delivering a baby, but labor in like doing the things that need to get done while you're granted 6 weeks or 3 weeks of paternity leave or whatever it is now. It's so disrespectful. But like, you're not going to be the focus for a season. And I think that we have to know that. Now, I don't think that season should last too long, but I do think that should be understood as like, yo, because like there were some things that I needed from you that I couldn't or I wasn't supposed to get anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? And like,
give some examples. Like
sex or like, you know, like indulging in watching pornography. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like, but I'm also like, man, I don't want to bug you. You like, I just watched you wake up at 4:00 in the morning, go to school, be there before the janitor. The janitor's there, you're preparing the school, praying over the school. Can't get a lunch to yourself. You come home, you got to do tutoring. Then after that, it was all types of BSU and all that stuff, events. And then I get home and I'm kind of like, what are you hungry for? Right? Are you about to cry?
I don't know why. I just went back.
Yeah. And then like you would come home and then like nothing was like to your standards. Like I was just like, we made it. I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, and then you go to sleep and I just be sitting there next to you like, can I touch her leg? Or it was such a hard season.
Yeah.
And that's all. And that's the hard part about like why I was like so adamant about the vasectomy. It's kind of like, man, I miss you. And every time we have a kid, it resets again to where I'm not focused on. And we don't get to focus on each other because we're so centered on this child. Now, I think there's probably ways we could have done it better. But I don't think we were prepared for that well, you know? So I think, and the cool thing is about like, when people say, well, you have to be financially stable to have children, like, I don't think that's true, but I understand why it's valuable. Because if you're not tripping off of where your money's coming from all the time, you're able to just take the time to be focused on the child, on the family, on each other, and just say, hey, like Yvette was just saying stuff. And this was kind of like, I was like, am I supposed to be listening to this? Because she was like, yeah, and a baby moon, that's a thing. And I was just like, what is that?
And a push gift.
And a push gift. Like, you just pushed it out. The gift is what you pushed. That was really, but I never heard of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think only reason you know about it is because you went to Point Loma.
No. Crystal got a push gift. Brian
and Crystal?
Brian got her a push gift with Kai, I believe it was.
Brian got finessed.
I don't know how I heard about baby moons, but I did hear about baby moons.
It's like we could barely make mortgage and you're wanting to, like, we had to afford the baby.
But let's talk about it though. Like, a baby moon makes sense.
100% it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to go in debt.
Yeah.
For the thing. Like, do you want to talk about our finances back then? It was rough.
It was rough, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if the more you set yourself up for success and work hard before the baby comes, you know, work hard, make money if that's what you can do, save money. Like it makes sense to why that is valuable, right? Like some people like get married with no honeymoon. Like go on a honeymoon, bruh. Like don't just start working and living together. That's weird. Like take a moment to see what life was like when it was just Adam and Eve just naming stuff in the garden. You know what I'm saying?
Like that is a productive use of time and resources.
Super productive. But like culturally, we're just starting to take time now. We deserve time then, but we didn't set I didn't set our life up for that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that a lot of your pain comes from my lack of decision making or intention or whatever. My early years, like just frolicking around, like rapping. You know what I'm saying? Like now, I don't think those talents went to waste. You know what I'm saying, or anything like that. But I do believe that I could have done a better job setting us up for success in that area. I just didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what it meant. But now, just like before, I was like, yeah, we're not going on no vacations. That's crazy. We still owe this amount of money in debt. Like, why are we sitting there, like, smoking that Dave Ramsey? Like, that was a bad idea. We should have went on plenty of vacations because...
I mean, we were able to pay off the student loans. So.
Yeah, that was valuable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like now, like, we deserve that time then. Like right now, like you could have used several vacations, and so what about that made you cry?
I didn't cry.
Because you just cried on camera. You know how hard it is to get Yvette to cry?
I didn't cry. I just teared up. I just remember.
I'll cry and you'll look at me just straight face. Like, I'll cry during a conversation I'm having with you, expressing myself. And you'll be like, I understand. I understand that. So what happened just now?
It was when you were describing what my days used to be like. I don't even want to talk about it. But I just remember, like, I was not living for myself. Like, there was just everything that I did was for someone else and something else, And I loved teaching. I really did enjoy teaching, but I was always torn. Like, there would be days when those children would just be not vibing with me well. And I would be thinking about the fact that I could be at home right now. Like I could be at home with my own children right now who would probably appreciate me being around a lot better than you. Like I was just going through it internally during that time. And at that time, I didn't have nobody to talk to. I feel like I've spent a lot of my life not talking about a lot of things. And so I don't know. I don't know why I got emotional, but that was a hard season. Those early years of parenthood, of marriage, that was hard. But God, thank you, Lord.
Do you think you'll look back on these years and cry?
Probably.
That's sad.
Not necessarily because of our marriage, but because of the things that I'm having to work through.
Yeah.
I mean, we've in outside of our marriage, we've just experienced a lot of loss.
Yeah.
That I don't know, it's just too much. I do like this version of us. I definitely think we have a ton of growing left to do. I mean, I hope we're continuing to grow for
we got no choice.
The rest of our life together. But it is very satisfying to see where we were and where we are and where we're going. There's hope. And I think when you take time to reflect on where you've been and where you are, at least in our situation, it's okay, even if today is hard, even if this is a hard season, I know that we're going to get to the other side of this It's going to be better. We're going to grow from this thing or whatever. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure why I got emotional, but it was hard. It's crazy too, because that was a hard season of our life. But when I think about like last year,
it was way harder than that.
I'm like, oh my God, Lord Jesus. Last year, I don't know if I thought we would make it. Last year, I lost hope. Like there was moments when it was like, I don't know what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Right now. Like I felt very hopeless at moments. And yeah, man.
And I think that like when people ask like, what's the value and what's the point of getting married, is like if you knew that it was going to cost some of the things that you were going to have to pay. Like some people like right now listening to this and like, I would never put up with that. You know what I'm saying? I'd never deal with that. If I just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't know yourself in the season we're in. You have no idea what it costs to get here. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you haven't even built up the muscle to withstand anything. You know, you're used to getting in relationships and leaving and being out because things aren't perfect or someone looked at you the wrong way or called you, you know, a name that wasn't politically correct. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? That's what relationships and value and people are worth to you. Like, but maybe you know yourself and you know you're not willing to put up with it, but don't look down on other people because, you know, they have a higher standard or threshold. And honestly, I don't know if back then I would be able to understand a lot of the lessons that we've been learning in the past 2 years, you know. But I do believe that now that we're on this side of parenting, I'm able to see you a little better. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm seeing a lot. You know what I mean? I didn't know how long it was going to take. Excuse me. I didn't know how long it was going to take for us to be seen by each other.
But I also would like to point out that I feel like it's easier for us to see each other because we are pouring into ourselves.
Yeah.
We're putting the mask on ourselves first. And so I think there's a lot to be said, like to anyone listening who is in the like in the early stages of becoming a new parent or whatever, is like, just don't forget to put your mask on. And I know that some days it's going to be hard or seemingly impossible, but it's just like, I went to this conference for moms a couple of weeks ago, and I went to a self-care session, and the way that the woman started the session is she made us breathe. And we literally took 5 intentional breaths where she counted on the inhale and counted on the exhale. And I don't know why we all got so emotional, but we all were like, whoa. And Glenn and I have done breath work before.
Breath work is fire.
Which I think is a very valuable thing when done with the right person. But yeah, it was just something as simple as that, y'all. And there have been moments since that conference where I've been like, you know what I mean? I've just had to breathe. Yesterday, I excused myself from the homeschooling. The nanny was there and everything. And I was like, yo, I got to excuse myself and go breathe. I went up to our room and I just took some deep breaths because everybody was tripping. And I needed to do that. And I think sometimes we think about these extravagant things I need a weekend away, or I need to go get a massage or a spa treatment or whatever. Those things are lovely. But I don't think that self-care or filling up your cup always looks like that. Even if it means putting a child in a safe spot, crib, whatever, wherever you want to put them, letting them cry it out for 3 minutes or something so that you can just, I don't know. But there are ways that are free to fill up your cup. And so, I don't know. I feel even in just some more practical ideas as far as what it looks like to get face-to-face time, I definitely think that intimacy was our hugest, is that a word? I don't like talking in front of you anymore. But I think intimacy was a huge issue for us when it came time, like when I was pregnant and when I had the child, because it was like, you ain't getting none of this. And I feel like for reasonable whatevers, but at the same time, there's a responsibility that we have to each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that conversation around that and what, like, even just like, hey, I'm not really liking my body right now. So it's kind of like, I don't know, whatever. And then like, there's things like after a woman has a baby that she has to deal with about how she feels about her body. And I think that if we could better communicate that to our spouses, then maybe they can find ways to make us feel sexy again, because we are ripped apart, you know, bleeding from here and there, squirting from there and the other. It's just like we are a hot mess express. I mean, beautiful hot mess we are. I'm not trying to shame anybody for their bodies, but there's like a lot of things that we have to adjust to too. Like our bodies aren't what they used to be.
What are you talking about? Like, so how are we? I don't understand that.
What don't you understand?
Because it had nothing to do with the way your body looked. You had issues with sex.
Yes, I did.
Period.
But when you add the issues that I had with sex on top of not feeling sexy, can you imagine the compounding interest on the lack of, or the, what is it, depreciation on
Well, here's what I'm saying
activity?
too. It's like your identity behind being sexy is totally not, it has nothing to do with the pregnancy either. Like, that was how you viewed yourself from a churchy girl aspect.
Babe, I'm not necessarily talking about my unique experience. I'm talking about the experience of a woman overall. After we have a baby, we do not feel sexy. Maybe some women do, but a lot of us do not. And so that can become an issue in a relationship where intimacy is lacking.
But I'm saying, how does a man change how a woman sees herself?
It's not a matter of him changing it. It's a matter of him emphasizing how he sees her. He's like, maybe you see yourself that way, but when I look at you, girl.
What if he doesn't? What if he's not attracted to it?
Then that's a thing.
Yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so then I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, that, like, I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but I do believe that what we're talking about is an unhealthy view on what we believe the purpose of sex is for, right? Like, it was like, sex for me was like eating food, water. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like life, right? Like, what sex to you was a connection, intimacy, well, what it was supposed to be, right? Before it was like a chore that you did. Now I feel like it's intimacy, a connection that is seen after we have been socially intimate, you know what I'm saying, and worked on in some different areas. Mm-hmm. But all I'm saying is that, like, intimacy is extremely important outside of, you know, pregnancy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're merging them together because we had issues with that, and pregnancy heightened it. Mm-hmm. Right? But it wasn't because of the pregnancy is why we weren't having good sex. Our sex was screwed up from the beginning. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. I hear your perspective.
But I'm saying, okay, so what could I have done to make you feel sexy during that time? Nothing. Right?
Affirmed me.
Affirmed you.
My body. Like, touched me. Because if like, for me, like, and I don't know if this is a thing that you want to talk about online, but it seemed like you only touched me when you wanted to have sex.
Well, it seemed like your body was going through a lot.
But I'm just saying, like, caress me, like, make me feel like, you know what I'm saying? Am I tripping?
But I definitely will feel kind of like a pushback.
Still, I mean, push through it. I don't know what to tell you,
man.
bro.
Okay.
Like, so I'm not trying to put it all on you. Like, I definitely think there's a level of responsibility that I have to take, but I feel like you are now making excuses for why you wouldn't touch me.
Well, yeah, I felt like
but I don't even recall like
pulling back.
Like, you know.
Oh, me pursuing you?
Yeah, in that way.
Yeah, it was definitely difficult because it was hard to talk about. It was hard to move forward through, and it was awkward. You know what I'm saying? And like, I didn't want to get to a point where I was aggressive, and I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you felt uncomfortable, and so I don't know, man. It was extremely difficult. You know, I just know that for a man, when you are with their partner and that partner is pregnant, your responsibility is to serve that person and see that person. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm learning through this conversation that it's important to pursue that person even when they don't feel desired. Right? Mm-hmm. And try your best to encourage them that they are desired. You know? Yeah, and that's what I could have done better. I appreciate you for telling me that. I appreciate you. What? No, don't do that, because you just had a whole conversation in your head and now I'm stuck on the outside. So what is it?
I didn't have a conversation in my head, babe.
Yeah, you gave me that smirk like, whatever, N-word.
I never think like that.
What you did? Run the tape back.
Okay.
You're going to see a squint. What was it?
Babe, there's no squint. Come on, let's move on.
All right, how married are you?
What? We're done?
Yeah, we've been on here for a minute.
I'm still married.
Did I not have one? Oh.
I'm still married that on Thursday morning, I realized that Glen had a week of not as much productivity that you would like. And then like Wednesday nights are Glen's night to be off, you know, like where you meet up with the guys, but he canceled it to help me out with the kids on Wednesday night. So on Thursday morning, I was like, hey, I'll just not have my night off and you can work late. And there you have it.
I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I got done, but I do feel like we accomplished a lot. Yeah, actually, I think we cleared out the office.
How married are you, babe?
One night after sex, I was motivated. I couldn't sleep. And usually after sex, I'm like, I'm going to bed. But this night, I felt very motivated. I don't know what it was about the sex that motivated me.
What did you do after? What did you do?
I was thinking about the sex.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I like stayed up. I think like it was like 12. It was late. And I stayed up. I like started cooking at like, I probably started cooking at like 12. And I stayed up, and Yvette usually makes tuna for us and chicken and rice for the kids. And I made the chicken and rice, made a new batch of rice. I don't even make rice. I don't make rice right. But I read the back of that package. And then actually I looked it up on the internet, made a nice thing of rice, cut up the Brussels sprouts, threw the chicken in there.
And the thing is, I was in bed and then I got woken up by the smells. I was like, lot going on. What is happening?
I was boiling down there, chopping up onions.
I was so confused.
And I made sure the kitchen was...
He started the dishwasher.
Dishwasher, yeah.
Yeah.
And
he didn't leave the kitchen a mess for me to wake up.
Yeah, because I know that's what you was thinking. Like, he probably down there cooking and the kitchen gonna be a mess and I'm gonna have to. But nah, I did. Basically, I helped you meal prep for the week.
You did, babe.
And you were able the next morning to go on a walk.
I went on a walk because I had intended, because I didn't get to it that day, and I had intended to wake up and do it the following morning. But then I woke up and it was done. I said, I'm gonna take Lily on a walk.
Yeah.
So I did that.
Yeah. And that's just how married we are.